Hi, I'm Annette Richmond, your host of Content Marketing School, and I'm so excited to have Susan McConnell here with me today. Now, Susan, I met you through a speakers group, mainly for women, and you are just so generous with your knowledge and your advice to all the members like me. And so I am so delighted that you said yes and you are joining me here today. So before we get started, for anyone who doesn't know you, please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name's Susan McConnell, and I call myself Diversified Speaker Solutions, aka Diversified Sales Solutions. And the reason I changed over to speakers is I'm a biz dev salesperson, and I started helping speakers 2 or 3 years ago find speaking ops. And it's in addition to marketing, which is what you teach people, there is a whole sales side to finding speaking. And so I bring those skills to that because, as you probably know, being either a newer or even a mid-range speaker, it's there's work involved. It's not just you find it. You got to find it and go get it.
Yeah, there's so many things like that, and I will just say that that's one of the reasons that podcasts often fail because people think, "Oh, I'm going to do a podcast and I'm just going to turn on my mic and I'm going to talk and next thing you know, I'll be raking in the money." And they don't realize that while I like it, I've been podcasting since 2020 and that's part of like who I am now, there is work involved. So, I'm glad you mentioned that and I want to say that I am newer to speaking. I have just really, years ago, but I've just really gotten into speaking at conferences in the last few years. So I'm still a newbie. And I think there are so many people like me, and even people, as you say, that are kind of in the middle that we think about our topics and our presentation and what the stories and everything. But when it comes to the business side, which is obviously, as you say, if you don't do that, you're not going to have any business. You just be speaking for free forever. Um, I'd love to start with what are some of the misconceptions besides the idea that, put up your shingle and people are going to come calling and begging you to speak to for them. What are maybe the biggest misconception that people have when they think they're, want to be a speaker?
I think one of the biggest, I think there's probably a few, but the biggest one that I can think of off the top of my head right now is that all you got to do is like do your speaker reel and your website and develop your talk, and people are going to come get you. Like you said, come find you. But you have to find who your audience is, go find who's having those events, and apply. And not only do you have to do that, you have to follow up once you apply. You can't just apply and say, well, they're either going to say yes or no. You have to kind of put yourself out there to have people call you back.
Yeah, so I guess was going to ask you like mistakes, and I guess the biggest one is just sort of like field of dreams, build it, and people will come. That's not happening. Can you give us a couple of other mistakes that people make? Because there's so much. It's like we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll start with that. Like I was saying, when you apply for a speaking opportunity, if you really think you're a good fit, you should instead, it's usually like you'll go to a website for some reasons, and then you'll put in your application. But what I suggest everybody do is to actually look up the event, look up who the speaker person is, and try to connect with them on LinkedIn, email, whatever it is, and ask them like who they're looking for and what they're looking for, because maybe you can tweak what you say so that you get picked, and also you're also getting them to know you. So it's kind of a dual thing, because it's not just you submit it. You have to do a little more, what I call sales tactics, or being politely persistent, which is what people call me all the time.
No, I love that idea of being politely persistent because I am one of those people that sales isn't really, easy for me. The first time when I started doing, a boot camp and I get to the sales page, I was kind of like, and now I've gotten to the point where I practice it and I hold my breath, I say it and I'm done with it. But one of the things that I've learned too, and this is the idea that there are many conferences where they're offering you exposure. Oh, it's the exposure. It's the exposure. And, even, you pay for your travel, but maybe they give you a free conference ticket. And, I part of me thinks like I've done that for like a national association because I'm a newer speaker and it's good for me to have that experience that I've
Mhm.
spoken there, et cetera. But where do you suggest kind of like drawing the line, like when, maybe how to evaluate when it's free, when it's not free, that whole, oh, the audience is a great audience for you. It's like, I'm sure everybody says that who wants the speaker to speak for free.
Yeah, they all do. Yeah, when you look at the speaking ops, if it's one that's free or they only pay travel or it's pretty minimal, what you have to look at is who's the audience, and if I'm speaking to this audience, do I have the ability to find new clients? Because then that's worth it. Because if I find a client from a speaking op, I get a client. And secondly, like you said, if you're newer and you need the exposure, you can ask questions around, is it going to be filmed? So you can have a copy of a film. That has a value. We asked this for one of my clients. She's doing one, I think, in the next couple of months. And instead of, like I said, we asked them to film, and then we asked for a LinkedIn testimonial and a written testimonial afterwards, because those will help you going forward build your business. And so you got to ask for different things, but you don't want to go somewhere where you can get very little value, meaning like if you can't find clients, like you're in marketing, you could probably find some marketing clients if you go to a marketing event or an event where there's companies that are in your profile of who you want to have as clients. I say you should have an offer if you're going to be speaking that kind of level where you're just going to get clients, I think. Other than that, I would say no. I would say no.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because, as I said, I spoke to a national organization last fall, and it was fun. I was happy to go. I was able to drive there. It was only overnight one night, and I did get, I was at the conference. But one of the things that they said to me was there was, like you cannot have, not necessarily selling from the stage. Obviously, you don't want to be up there pitching, but even, a download or something that wasn't allowed, even though they weren't paying, which at the time and now I'm thinking that maybe that's not such a good deal, that even if, just being there is not enough, you have to have something.
Yes, definitely. I agree. If you're going somewhere and they're not going to give you anything, then it's not a good fit for you, and you shouldn't do it. Like you said, even if they can't do a download, can they give you the list of attendees? Can they let you put your information out in advance? There's some conferences that use special software apps
Hmm.
where you can get on prior and you can kind of see who's going to the
Hmm.
event, and you can kind of get on and look through and invite people. Like there's different ways to do it, but like if they're not going to bend and give you anything for doing it, yeah,
Yeah.
walk away.
Yeah, yeah. It's so hard. It's so hard to do it. And there's one organization I spoke free, for them for a couple of times. But I was actually a member myself. So, it was beneficial to me because I probably would have gone anyway. And then once I moved away from that, and they're like, "Oh, aren't you going to pitch this year?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm done. I'm done with that."
Yeah, and I also think even though they said that if you can't offer a download or a paper, there should be some way for you to weave into your talk without being salesy and spammy and
Mhm.
gross, which is definitely a line I used to use quite a bit, um, to get people to want to come up and talk to you after.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be, you have to finesse that piece a little. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to sell from sale. Of course you are. You just got to figure out how to do it. And if you don't, why do it unless you're getting paid really good money, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. As we were talking before we went live here, that I just got back from a gig, and it was a wonderful time, great people. I was paid well, so of course I'm not going to be pitching anything because that's I'm there. It's my gig. but when you're up there speaking for free, that's a different thing. So, can you give us some tips of maybe things that are maybe negotiable, things that we should look for? I mean, anything, whatever tips you can share, I am grateful for, and so are my listeners.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the ladies on Innovation Women said she has a list of 100 things that you can ask for in a when you're going to speak. The top ones, I think, one is, like I said, the referrals, a
Mhm.
recording, list of the people that are attending. Let's see, what else can I think of? Maybe a referral to another speaking op.
Mhm.
And another thing too, well, maybe that takes you in a different direction. Let's see,
That's
what
okay.
else?
Go where you go. I'm
Yeah.
here.
So when I think about some of these speaking ops, sometimes when you go to some of them, like you want to say, like, do you need any other speakers next year? And they'll say, yeah, because you're there, you're probably not gonna be able to speak for them next year.
Mhm.
Like have one or two buddies that you can all refer each other. That way you can all give each other speaking opportunities because you're all not going to be at the same place every year. So have a group of like 5 people that are 5 different things and learn how to refer each other too.
Yeah, well, that is a great way, to do business. And there's also a lot of talk about speaker bureaus, and somebody was telling me about e-speakers is something, and there's all these different ways to go out there. And of course, there's LinkedIn. We're both on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and I've certainly learned a lot from our mutual friend Brenda Meller, who
She's
is
awesome.
who is just the so knowledgeable on LinkedIn, and also a marketing coach. So, she's a great help to me. And what are there any platforms or anything that you would recommend? Or I know you work with speakers also, so if you can talk about maybe places where it might be advantageous, is it worth it to be on like the National Speakers Association as a speaker, or these things? And if they want to hire somebody, I know this is big, what do they look for?
Let's see. I would say like it depends on where you are in your speaking career, I suppose. Like if you're new, I wouldn't put yourself on a bureau. I wouldn't um obviously like Innovation Women, Bobby Carlton's site. If you're a
Mhm,
woman, that's where you should go first
mhm,
because one, it teaches you all the things you know. And two, she has a whole list of speaking opportunities there, which you can go through. Granted, you have to filter through to try to find
mhm.
paid ones, but the more you do it, the more you kind of keep your own little list of what ones that are paying. So those are like less expensive ways to do it. Um, and then, you know what? Sometimes Google is a cool thing because you can sit there and say, hey, I live in New York City, so I'm going to Google speaking opportunities in New York City in 2026. That's how I
Okay.
found one of them for one of my speakers who's in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and it's like it's the obscure, like different kind of groups that you want to look for, especially if you're new. Like she's going to be speaking for the Texas Rural Water Association. Like there's some really cool associations out there that need speakers.
I have heard that you should be looking for associations and not necessarily like a large conference, because a large conference, you have to be at a certain level. And I'm certainly not a keynote speaker. Likely I will never be a keynote speaker. That's not, what I'm looking for, but doing breakout sessions and trainings and things like that are the things. So you look like you're going to jump in and add something there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like there's these obscure groups that you'll see actually, like I said, if you get on a site like Innovation Women, then there's a
Mhm.
couple other sites like that that are not real expensive. There are some that are
Yeah.
really expensive, but if you're going to pay, you're going to really work it. Like you can't, you're not going to be on the site and they're going to come find you. Like no one's ever going to come find you. You have to find them. And it's, like I said, the Texas Rural Water Association. There's even like Diane Darling does really well. She's a networking speaker, and she does well with like the legal associations and things
Mhm.
like that. You
Mhm.
can look at sometimes even chambers because chambers have like small businesses there. And if you're selling something a small business buys, some chambers might be good if they do some virtual, if they're not local, your local chamber. But
Yeah.
there's like so many different interesting associations that there's the lumber association. One of my old speakers from a long time ago used to speak at the big lumber conferences because
Yeah.
they need business help because yeah, you can learn how to cut lumber and it can build a building, but how do I do my business? How do I communicate? How do I market? Those are the things they don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I talk about video marketing specifically, and when I was at speaking over the weekend, a couple of people did come up after me afterwards and said, "Oh, by the way, I work. I'm with this organization. Can you send me something? After the show." So I love that idea. I love about asking people for referrals and making sure that you are referring people as well. Make
I,
sure that when you don't have the I worked in the career field for a long time, and I would say to people, I worked with senior executives, that if a recruiter calls you and you can't help them, it's not for you. See if you can refer somebody else, because that person, it could be perfect for them. And then you are, you're in that mind as a giver.
oh, completely, totally unbelievable, awesome, Annette, because that's kind of me at my core. As I'm a networker, I found like 3 people jobs. Because and it was just because I saw the ad and I knew who the person on LinkedIn. So I said, you should hire this person. And then I found another job for someone local. And like, she just forever, that's her opening story when she gives it, is that I knew her well enough to refer her to somebody else, because that's how, you get a little extra when you have that whole connection and you do it the right way, because it comes back to you. It doesn't matter if it's not like definitely the person that you gave the referral to, but somehow the universe brings stuff
It
like that
it
back.
it does. It does. And there is such a thing. I know Brenda talks about it, like social media karma, and it does come back to you and it comes around to you. And you know, I will also say, I give a plug to Innovation Women. I've been a member for several years, and one of the things that I like best about it, really is most helpful to me, is the Friday mornings
Yeah,
where I got to meet you and I've learned from you that they have every week, where you can go in and say, "Oh, here's my question," and other women, it's mainly women, but there are a few men there,
mhm.
will jump up and help you. And that's all that, that karma thing. And I will say, the gig that I just had, it was all women. And it was like, yes, yes, it was so cool, because women are so underrepresented, correct?
Yes. Um, it was kind of cool. I think I said this at the last meeting last Friday. I was I talked to a lot of it's called Entrepreneurs Organization, and
Mhm.
that's another area like of people that, I mean, they have professional speakers, but they're always looking for new people, and they pay decently, and they're good groups. They're all entrepreneurial companies. And I was talking with one of their they call them learning chairs. And I was like, so what are you looking for this year? And what's kind of cool about what I do is now I don't have to go and say, do you need leadership this year? Or do you need burnout? Do you need stress? Like, what do you look like? I can come and add it like to solve their problem. Like, what do
Mhm.
you need? Who do you want? Who's going to help serve your membership? And then from there, I can kind of talk about it. But what's cool about him is he said, because I want to have more women speakers this year. And it's a guy. And I was like, yay. So that's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. That's one of those, I guess, remaining sort of glass ceilings that's not really broken yet. And I know, I've done virtual events. People that I invite in my podcast, I've done virtual events with multiple speakers, and I always like to make sure that, like, everyone is represented, different ages, different ethnicities, men, women. Because I think that is so important.
Mhm.
Diversity is a big thing in my mind.
Oh, you
So
can't say it anymore, though, right? Is that like a taboo?
I don't know, not on this podcast. We
Right.
are rocking
You
and
can say
rolling for
it.
diversity here. So, so let's say someone, okay, we have Innovation Women. I mentioned e-speakers. They have a low level, inexpensive, where I can just be
Mhm.
listed there. So, I could do something like that. What about when someone is not like me? Say we have somebody's listening right now, and they're not newer like me, but they're more mid range, and maybe they're thinking of a site where they would maybe want to spend more money. maybe work with someone like you or you? What do they look for? Because as I always think, it's like we don't know what we don't know.
Mm. Yeah, there's a couple different angles. One of the sites that I know of, I think it's called Speaker IO. Here, I'll
Okay.
look it up really quick.
Okay. And we
It's
can put it.
called Stage Finder AI.
Okay.
And that's for, I would call it a little bit more an advanced speaker. It's very AI driven. What's cool about it's somewhat expensive. It's a license, you purchase it, but you put in all your information of who you are, what your topic is, who you're looking for, and it kind of curates where you should be, all the databases
Hmm.
and pulls up
Hmm.
some speaking for you. And so from there you have to, obviously apply, but again, the follow-up is the biggest piece. It almost doesn't matter. Like you could be on any site. It's more about you making that attempt and then following up and following up and following it up and being a little more persistent because that's how you're going to get it.
So for our advanced speakers who are tuning in, because I have all kinds of different people listening to this podcast, what about if someone is ready for, say, a speaker bureau? What are some things that they should think about, consider? A couple of ideas you can give that would be fabulous.
I think if you're going to join any sort of a speaker bureau, you have to get involved with that actual bureau because there's going to be so many people on there.
Uh-huh.
You get to know the people that are running the bureau
Uh-huh.
because they're going to be the ones that are asked who they should pick. I mean, no one's going to, yeah, you can jump on a site and search people, but someone's going to, like you said, they're going to ask. So if you get to know the people running that bureau and could have them get to know you, you probably a better shot. If someone asks them who they should pick, it's getting involved. Like it's not just sticking your profile up there.
Yeah.
Getting
Yeah.
involved with the bureau, being part of that. And then that's where you also can find some of your referral people, especially if you're on one of the bigger bureaus. But you got to still do the work.
Yeah, no, I like that. And one of the things I did a little brief presentation on networking, and I always end it by saying, it's not about who you know, it's who knows you. Who is going to think of you when there is something coming up.
Right.
So as we're not done yet, but I just want to fit this in now. What if someone wants to get in touch with you? Where can they find you? Where's the best place? I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Just like Brenda, back in the day, I think during COVID, she and I were both doing the same thing, teaching LinkedIn. So I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn. So reach out to me there. And I try to work with what I call mid to upper level speakers because
Okay.
it's easier for me to find them kind of the speaking that they're looking for. When you're a beginner, you kind of got to just grind the pavement a little bit. And you don't need me to do that for you because you kind of got to learn it. I
Mm-hmm.
go a little deeper and I
Uh-huh.
do a little more follow up. And that's kind of, so it's just a little further in.
So you coach people and also you're maybe partly accountability partner to make sure that they're
I
doing.
actually do some of the work to find
Oh, okay.
and we'll actually put in the applications and do some of the follow up for them because I have a team that helps me do a few of those things. So we can go in and do a lot of the grunt work to find
Oh,
some of
okay.
them.
Okay. So you're for someone obviously not like me who would like to do, I'd like to do a number of speaking training gigs this year, but again, it seems like you're more for the, as you said, higher level, bigger
I call it
conferences, maybe
mid-range kind of.
keynote speakers.
Not even I would like a keynote I think of as someone like they say this nowadays, it's like a sports celebrity or a big influencer. Those are like your high level keynotes. It's the people that like want to be involved in a speaking up where they're not quite the high level keynote.
Right,
They're like
right.
the lower end.
Uh-huh.
And they'll also do, like you said, the programs and the learning piece of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And I have and I'm talking about smaller the conference where I was, and I was part of a certain pavilion that I was working and speaking and giving some LinkedIn advice. But it was Hoda Kotb, is that her last name, from the Today Show? She was the keynote speaker. So that's
Right.
like a whole other level.
That's right.
That's a whole other thing.
Right.
So As we're winding down here, and people can find you also on your website is Diversified Speaker Solutions.
It's actually Diversified Sales Solutions. I never really changed my
Okay, that's all right.
website because I'm not a marketer. I'm a salesperson. No.
Okay, well, we gotta get that in there. Sales is so hard. Oh my gosh. So we have talked about, we're winding down now. We've gone through, I think I've learned, I know people listening
But
have learned. What is something that I haven't asked you that we haven't really talked about that you think would really be helpful for listeners to know?
oh yes, if you want to be a speaker, you have to be organized, and you have to have a small CRM so that you can keep track of the opportunities and you can set tasks up for yourself because
Mhm.
you're speaking, and then you also have to manage all of the pieces around it. But yet, if you lose some of these opportunities that you have applied for, and like I said, you can automate some of the tasks part of it so that it kind of just helps you keep everything organized so that you can follow up this year, follow up next year, whatever it is, you can start building your list and tasking it. Like, let's just say it's a conference this April.
Okay.
So you didn't get picked, but you really like it and you want to do it next year. So first of all, you want to put tasks in to connect with them on LinkedIn, tasks to email them what they're looking for, and then to reapply the next year. And you can just put that all through in your CRM, which is really just a database where you can keep all your records, and it helps you stay organized. And there's cheap ones out there that like $10 a month, you can set yourself up.
So it seems to me that the bottom line is if you want to be a speaker, you have to treat it like a business. Now, I love to get up on the stage. I don't get nervous. I get excited. I really, really enjoy it.
Mhm.
But the thing is, I finally got to a point where, much as I love it, I can't pay somebody else to let me get on their stage, even if I am the opening speaker on, at the breakfast with the entire audience there. So, but we have to think of it as a business.
It is. You have to make money doing that. I mean, who knows how much you need or want, but you're going to do it and you want to make money doing it. You have to treat it as a business. And that way you have to have some of the tools to help you because you're busy doing your speaking. You have your tools to help you stay organized. Then, it'll kind of help you down the road too. Like you want to be thinking about next year, and you know what I mean? Like some of the people that I'm talking to right now that are in EO, they're planning their speaking for 2027 right now.
Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I see that I have a lot of homework to do. So, Susan, thank you so much for joining me. As I said to you before we got started, I'm sure you have people asking you all the time because you are very generous with your knowledge. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you to everyone who has been listening, and I will see you next time.
thanks, Annette.